Can't wait to, hear Cooper Flagg called #1. I mean, Ryan's just electrifying. He's a spark plug. He just started making the honor roll because everybody else was. I mean, you could trade him from one team to another, and in 2 days he'll know all their plays.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's amazing. Well, Derek came in. He was like a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
He's the type of guy that will live in the gym, so he'll get better and better. He's gonna end up being a really good pro. It's a big challenge, but I look forward to it, and I think.
I'm here with Coach Boyle in our new home in SPIRE Academy in Geneva, Ohio. 1 week from right now, we'll be at the NBA draft, so just wanted to get together with you and talk about, the history of the guys that played for you at Montverde and, under your lineage. Obviously, you had Cooper, Liam, Derek, Asa, and Ryan Nembhard, obviously, could be in this draft as well. So just for you, discussing some of the memories of those guys and some of the first times you saw them a few years ago, and then to where they are now in their journey.
Well, first of all, to Ryan Nembhard. Ryan Nembhard just had a fabulous college career. Started at Creighton, had 2 exceptional years, and then followed that with 2 exceptional years at Gonzaga. Last year, I believe he led the country in assists, or was head most of the year. And I know he's played really well in different summer basketball, involved with the NBA combines and those type of things. So, I mean, Ryan's just electrifying. He's a spark plug. He was always the most impactful player in the gym whenever he played. So I'm really excited for him. Obviously, his brother Andrew is starting and having a great first 3 years with the Pacers. Dealing with the current guys, that are the younger guys that are all in the draft, potentially in the lottery. I think Ryan will, probably end up being, somewhere in that mid-second round, maybe early second round, because he's going to end up being a pro. Asa Newell. Asa was just incredible energy when we first got him. He looked like he was probably going to go to Dr. Phillips, and the coach ended up leaving and kind of pointing him in our direction. And it was, just a great surprise how talented he was, how athletic he was, and how good of a person. And Justin and Carmen, his parents, are just, terrific family. And he's just been, improved so much over 2 years. But the biggest thing with him is he could screen and pop and stretch the floor and hit the 3. He's the type of guy that will live in the gym, so he'll get better and better. He's gonna end up being a really good pro. Next, you have Liam McNeely. Liam, again, his mom, Ashley, she was just, tremendous support for him, all through his basketball career and his life. And he's been, fabulous for us for 2 years. And he was so competitive. I remember when he first got there, he tried to really be an isolation player. And we kind of really got him off that and got him to focus on how you could be a pro and a good pro. By coming off of pin downs, by being a spot-up shooter, by coming off of zoom handoffs and either driving it or squaring up and shooting it, by shot faking and sliding 3, by relocating, all these type of things. And he took to those things. He trusted what we were trying to tell him, how he could get to the league and rebound better and guard his position. And he really improved in those things and was fabulous this year at UConn. Next, we have Derek Queen. His mom, Lisa, is just, again, we had great parents with our groups of kids, that's, what a coincidence that they were great kids who worked super hard. And Derek was with us 3 years. It took him a while to kind of figure it out, about 1.25 years, that he had to turn the motor up. And once he figured that out, and it's still growing, but he made good progress. But he's as skilled as anybody out there. His ability to pass and handle for his size. I think his shot is getting much better. And I think he's another guy that's going to be a really, really good pro because he's a super intelligent guy on the court and off the court. Mm-hmm. Lastly, with this Cooper Flagg. Cooper obviously is going to be the 4th #1 player I've had the privilege to coach. And Cooper, I remember him coming in or meeting with Kelly and Ralph, his parents, and you gotta love their intensity. They want him on the court, they want him in the gym, and they're just terrific people who really push him, and you can see where he gets that intensity and drive from. But Cooper's just so versatile, and I thought he came in, he was, because of his size in Maine, he was very much like a 4 or 5, and I think he's really grown into like a perimeter, 2, 3, 4. And he's getting better and better. I think he'll have good numbers early without question. He will not disappoint. He will excel, and I think he'll probably be 18, 7, and 7 or something like that, and grow into a guy that eventually is in that 25, 10, and 9 numbers, and just filling out the stat sheet over with everything else. So I think we'll have an excellent chance of getting 5 guys drafted, 1 probably in the second round, and again I don't want to not mention Claude and Mary, his parents, who again were the best. My sisters love the Nemhart parents more than anybody. So it's just a great group of guys, and we might even have 4 in the lottery. Who knows?
So when you look at Ryan Nemhart, obviously the point guard play by him of just constantly, his assist to turnover ratio is tremendous, and at his height, he just controls the game. Do you see it translating the same way in the NBA? In college, it'll be 9 assists, 1 turnover, 10 assists, 2 turnovers. Do you see that translating the same way Andrew kind of did?
Well, I think one of the things that's going to help Ryan is today's game is becoming a little bit more of a full court game in the NBA. You have more teams playing more guys consistently. You have more teams stretching the floor defensively. You've seen it with OKC to some degree. You've seen it very much with Indiana trying to wear the Knicks down, and SGA, and trying to wear SGA down. And so they're really getting after it full court. I think that's a good thing for Ryan, because Ryan can really pick up full court and harass people. And Ryan has the ability to really be a good ball handler in those situations. If people are going to try to press up, he'll really be tough to guard, getting by people or using the pick and roll. If he gets a pick, his decision making is really, really good. The key with Ryan is going to be that he keeps developing his shot. It doesn't have to be great, but that I keep you honest enough. But I'm very confident that Ryan's going to be a pro and a good pro.
When you talk about Derek, of course he came for 3 years, most of the other guys 2, but talk about the first time you saw Derek and just his transition. Obviously when he got there, just you could tell he's a special kid, special person, his IQ, and just a guy everyone wants to be around. For you as to coach him, and see his journey, how's that to reflect on?
Well, Derek came in, he was like a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
He was just somebody that everybody takes to him, everybody likes him. Yeah. He's very funny, and so he's got a lot of charisma and personality, and he had some skill you could see, but he also had to take care of his body. He came in, he was, probably had some tighten his body up and get his work ethic to develop.
Right.
And to his credit, he knew it. He knew he could go back where he was and dominate and kind of fool himself because he was ranked high. But he never left, even though he wasn't playing, because him and Mookie, who helped him so much, who does a great job running the AAU programs. Team Thrill, and it was a good mentor, but him and his mom, Lisa, they wouldn't let him leave. They wouldn't let him think about it. They all knew it was the right thing for him, and eventually it clicked. It took about a month into his junior year, and he still wasn't playing as much as he wanted, and it was kind of, Derek, it's on you. You start when you tell us you start, by showing us in the gym that you want to be a starter and you're playing as hard and working as hard as everybody else, because then you definitely start, because you're one of the most talented guys in the country. And he really showed that and was just dominant his senior year in high school basketball.
Yeah, and I remember that moment, when it kind of clicked. He scored 34 on John Boyle the next game, just we always knew how talented he was, but for him it's just getting everything to be put together, and obviously staying on him, harping on it. Like you said, his support system was just so great that they knew he needed it, and I don't think anybody ever doubted he would reach the heights that he's going to reach, now and has in college and soon in the NBA. So for Liam, obviously you talked about him as a competitor. What about from a leadership standpoint and in practices and stuff? Obviously we got to see that from Liam. So what did you think just overall from him in terms of being a leader on the team?
Well, what I liked about Liam the most, I went to see him and his mom in Texas to, basically just meet him because I know he wanted to come, but they just wanted to, have a face-to-face encounter with me, and he was already, I felt coming. But what I liked about him the most, and some of the better players that I've had over the years, he didn't ask about anybody else on the team or how many guys we had or who was projected to start or play. He didn't care. He knew that he was competitive and tough and confident, that he figured it out and wasn't worried about competition.
Right.
And so that was refreshing. And again, he brought that daily in practice. He was competitive. He wanted to win. Each drill, a lot of our drills are competitive, to run if you don't win a little section of the drill. And, if it's getting stops or challenging shots or whatever it is, and he was fired up, at himself or at his teammates if they weren't competing. And, we had a good group, so that wasn't needed much, but a lot of his example is leading by just working hard as hell every day in practice.
Yeah, and then, with that team, 2023, 2024 team, obviously very special and, amazing to be a part of. If you could just, want to talk about the two guys we haven't mentioned, Curtis and Rob, just to bring the whole thing together of, the 6 of those guys and just the special year that it was and the bond that those guys share. And I think Curtis is going to be joining us at the draft. So, just to have everybody be a part of that family for a year, what you really think of it, the 2 years really, but.
Well, I think when you look at, and this is credit to all the players, but probably a little more to Cooper because of what status he had gotten coming into his junior year. You could have easily had a super big ego. But I met with the guys and I said, listen, we have 6 guys that are seniors that are exceptional. Rob Wright, who is now at BYU and has an incredible deal. I think it's close to $3 million. He's just a terrific point guard. And he'll be the Ryan Nembhard in a year or two. That will be in the league. Curtis Givens was an elite defender, lived in the gym, and it had a good freshman year. He started like 14 games at LSU, and now he's going to Memphis. So he's going to end up having be a great college player before it's all said and done. He'll be in an NBA camp. So I thought they all deserved to start. I didn't think there would be good chemistry if we didn't have, just 1 or 2 guys, you might say, it would either be him or him. I thought that would affect them, not from being a good person standpoint. They wouldn't have tried to sabotage anything, but I think it would have affected them psychologically and maybe their performance. And I think the best way to do it was have 6 guys kind of rotate and start, and that included Cooper and everybody else that could be lottery picks, and they all were, coach, whatever it takes to win, we're all in. And that's when you have a special group in today's world. It's just amazing that those guys were that committed to each other and wanted to win. And all of them had opportunities to some degree to leave for money, in some cases significant money, and you can imagine with Cooper or some of the other guys. And they all stayed. At the time, Florida had no NIL, they received no money, but they all wanted to be a part of winning, and they also valued how they were developing as individuals and a team and how they were being viewed, their brands, that there was better value in staying and doing what's going to happen for them in this draft.
Exactly.
and making long-term money versus short-term money.
And, I can remember specifically a few times in practice, just from a staff standpoint, how much we really, really wanted to win for those guys. And you've talked about it, publicly and privately a couple times in the practice, looking at those guys and just saying, I really want to win for you. You guys deserve it. So how did it feel to finally, culminate that with a championship and then now see them go on, win the championship, go to college, be great, and now lead to the draft next week?
Well, obviously, we were super happy for all of them, and they did deserve to win. It wasn't because they were really good players. It was because their work ethic was great. They were all 6 of those guys, killed it academically. I mean, DQ was solid academically, and then he just started making the honor roll because everybody else was.
That's who he is. He's competitive.
He figured it out. I guess I better do this too. So at the end, they were all doing exceptional in school. 3 of them were like 4.0 plus. So we had a smart team, but they just did everything right. They kind of did everything right on the court, off the court. You never had to make them stay extra to get more skill development. They all were just volunteers to be in the gym, so they loved playing. And those type of guys, you're happy when they have success because they kind of worked for it and deserved it. So, and then they all came, like I mentioned before, all their families were really good people. They had good bases around them, and you love when families like that, their kids could have great success, and the type of kids that will, are going to do well, make a lot of money, and I'm sure they're the type of kids that are going to, give back to their church, their community, their travel program, whatever. So it's good kids.
Yeah, definitely. Part of what you just talked about is them being so close as friends and teammates, and kind of working out for these teams together throughout this process, and I think for all of them to go through it together, it really talks about coming to you and to play for you at 15, 16 years old. Now you're 18, 19, 4 years down the line, and you're going through this process. So, I'm sure they'll be very happy that we're there to see them and their families. And, how do you view, wherever they land in the draft, what do you think of a potential landing spot for them? Or obviously Cooper will go to Dallas, but do you think it will matter where those guys go, or kind of they'll be successful wherever they go?
Well, I think, again, there's some players, it doesn't matter what team you're on, you're just that good that you're going to, the team's going to form to you. The organization's going to make sure that happens because they know, the level, like say, Cooper has. But I think, for different guys, it is important where they go. I don't follow all the teams enough to really make a, great decision to say what team should each guy go to, but Liam McNeely always excels more when he plays with guys that really share the ball and people that sometimes, take advantage of his talents. He can really drive closeouts. At first, he's probably gonna have to be a spot up shooter. When the other guy, when the one or two on the team is getting, helped or blitzed or whatever, and they cost a quick 4-on-3, he's going to be a real good guy, either getting a kick out three or driving that closeout aggressively to the rim. And I also think he's going to rebound a lot better than people think. Asa Newell is interesting because he could be a guy that could screen and get a lob dunk. That causes problems for defenses, obviously, if you try to help with the ball handler, the point guard, or the guy being screened for, and it could cost the corners to pinch it if you have shooters. He also could rim run, but he also has the ability to screen and pop and be a really good shooter, if they both want to go and you're both going with the star guard and kick back. He's got that ability to make that shot, and he'll take 1,000 shots a day. Derek's kind of like a mini Joker. Yeah, he's just got a lot of ability and talent, and I think, again, he's really unselfish. And he's the guy, too, that can go to a team that runs a lot of sets because he's got such a high IQ. I mean, you could trade him from one team to another, and in 2 days he'll know all their plays. Yeah. I mean, really, it's amazing.
So one thing for Cooper, you mentioned Kelly and Ralph, his parents. One of my favorite things Kelly ever said was, if Cooper is the best player in a gym, you got to find a new gym. Just can you talk about his competitiveness and what he's learned from his parents and just what he brought from the moment he stepped on campus and really set the tone for everybody in the gym?
Well, Cooper and Ace, his brother, came, and Ace was a tremendous competitor too. So there's that fire in the family. I mean, Ralph's got it, Kelly's clearly got it. And I mean, they're just good people and competitive. And I remember he was throwing up on a trip to New Jersey on the way on the bus to the airport in Orlando. And Kelly's telling me, don't take him to the doctor. They're going to tell him he can't play. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
That's Kelly.
So I'm like, you're not here. How do you know? He goes, he's fine. I know. So I mean, and Cooper was that way too. He just brought it every day. It's amazing because by all the attention he's got, he should be having a guy that has an ego that's too big, and he's not that way at all. He's humble, goes about his business. You could be he was very coachable. He knew he was really good, but he also even now knows I need to get a lot better in different areas. I'm really good in different areas of the court, but I got to get my hand a little tighter. I got to become a more consistent shooter. I got to become an outstanding three-point shooter, at least very good three-point shooter in the NBA level. And I got to get a little lower if they try to put smaller guys into me.
Right.
So as good as he is, I think he's very coachable because he recognizes what his strengths are, and you could easily tell him where he still needs to develop to be a star-level NBA player. And he's mature enough to accept that and say, yeah, I get that, you're right. I do this at that level now, but these other 4 things I'm projected to keep getting better at that if I'm going to be an elite NBA player. And I think he will be. I think he'll be a guy. I think there'll be a day when, now Wemby might mess this up for everybody, but if he doesn't, there might be a day when, Cade Cunningham from who played for us as well and was the #1 pick with the Pistons, and Cooper and Wemby, or the three finalists in the Player of the Year in the NBA. Now again, it might be down the road because there's some great young talent there, but at least they could possibly all be on first team All-Pro.
Yeah, definitely. What did you notice about Cooper? I mean, I remember some of the days after practice, just Cooper would not want to leave, just keep getting extra work in, and then the other guys you would see are staying longer and longer because no one wanted to leave knowing Cooper was still going,
Well, when your best player is one of your hardest workers, and Cooper's one of the hardest workers, period.
Yep.
But he was with an unusual group. There was a number of guys in that team that had great work ethic, and I think they almost tried to outlast each other in the gym. Because a lot of them had to be the first one in the gym and the last one to leave mentality.
Yeah.
So sometimes it became difficult because everybody wanted to be the last one to leave.
Yeah, they're all looking around like who's still here.
Yeah, so I think they came to a truce to all leave after practice for 2.5 hours, hit the weights, and then shoot for another hour and then leave.
Yeah, exactly. Next week we'll be in Brooklyn for the draft. Cooper Flagg, your 4th #1 pick. And then we're looking at three other potentially lottery picks in Liam, Asa, and Derek, and Ryan Emhard in round 2 potentially. Just seeing everybody, their families, the culmination of all the hard work, all the hours in the gym that we had with those guys. How will it feel for you to kind of see that play out and let them live their dreams?
Well, first of all, for me personally, it feels very satisfying and rewarding. But the biggest feel I get is really happiness for their families, because in some cases it's life altering. In other cases it's really nice to get where you're going to be, get where you want to be. But from a financial standpoint, and more than that, from a competitive success standpoint, it's just it's a great honor, and so few people ever get to be a first round draft pick or a lottery pick. And one of the things that we're proudest of, with the coaches that I've coached with in the number of years, is, and I think in the last 5 years, if Ryan gets selected, which he will, it will give us 18 draft picks. So I think that will be, more than any team, any college team or any European team that's had in the last 5 years. So it's something, as a program, we're really proud of, and what we're going to try to bring to SPIRE now.
Now leading into SPIRE, our new home here in Ohio, obviously tremendous opportunity, to grow everything we've been doing, and for you to take the next step and really continue the dominance of, like you said, producing more NBA picks than anybody else, colleges, high schools, pro teams in Europe. How do you see it going forward here in Ohio?
Well, I was really excited and impressed when I, was called by the owner of the school, Jonathan Ehrenfeld, who just had a vision, and he approached me with a vision of how he thinks SPIRE holistically could be the premier prep school in the world, and from an academic standpoint, from a institute standpoint of developing athletes, like a science approach, and then also from an academy, and hopefully having a basketball team and basketball players that I was fortunate to have at St. Patrick in New Jersey and at Montverde in Florida. And it's a big challenge, but I look forward to it, and I think there's a leadership team that they are starting to put here, from the CEO, to the chairman, to the director of the school. We've gotten sponsorship and marketing hires, so they're really going out to try to find elite talent to end up having what they think could be, competitively in the conversation as the premier school, from a leader in the industry, how things change and evolve with today's sports.
With SPIRE, the biggest goal, what would you say?
Well, for me, the biggest goal is that the brand SPIRE Academy, SPIRE Institute, is hopefully in 10 years as well known throughout the world as any other brand in athletics. And in 5 years, that it's close, and I think, that's one of the goals. The other goal is, from a basketball standpoint, I want it to be known as the best place for players to develop to be NBA stars and NBA players. And I think, we've had the good fortune of attracting really good talent at St. Patrick's and at Montverde, and we've had the good fortune of helping those guys grow their games and you know, so many of them end up being successful college players and really successful NBA players. So we just want to continue that here, and hopefully, can we take it to another level? I don't know, would that be hard? But I think we're going to go for it, and we're going to keep it at least at the same level.
Thanks, Coach Boyle, for taking the time today and to talk about those guys and their families and the special history.
Well, thanks, Matt. And again, I'm excited as well. Can't wait to be there, and can't wait to hear Cooper Flagg called #1, and then hopefully we get a couple more guys in the lottery, and 4 in the top 20 at least, and hopefully we get Ryan early in that second round, and then it will be an unbelievable successful day.
It'll be a great night. Thanks, Coach Boyle.
Thank you.